Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week we have Cameron Abbott once again. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, nerds?
What is going on? So today we're going to be talking about a little bit more Eiyuden Chronicle Rising after last week. I basically have finished the game now. Then Cam is going to give his thoughts on a Vampire Survivor that he's been playing. I'm going to give some thoughts on Floppy Knights, and Cam is going to wrap up with his thoughts on the early access of My Time at Sandrock. Before we dive into that, though, a little bit of housekeeping for you. That Bond show is nearing its end. We're about halfway through the Daniel Craig era now. This week's episode will be Skyfall. So come and join me and Logan to hear our thoughts on that movie. Saturdays at youtube.com/thatnerdysite as we wrap up our little That Bond Show mini podcast series that we've been doing all year. And Cameron still chugging away at Friday Night Dying Light every Friday evening on that same YouTube channel, youtube.com/thatnerdysite. We're up through episode 17 is up and live now, and Cam still has many more to go. So check in every week for the latest in his saga there. Other than that, if you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So yeah, I won't take too much time here at the top to discuss Eiyuden Chronicle. We talked pretty extensively about it last week, I think. But then I basically was like, yep, I'm hooked. I think last week when we talked about it, I'd probably played the first couple hours of the game. And then basically over the next couple days, went through and pretty much 100% to the game. Just had a grand fun time going out into the dungeons, collecting resources, bringing those resources back, turning them into quests, or using them to purchase or upgrade items and gear and all that fun stuff, and then taking that more powerful stuff and going right back out into the dungeons. It was I think like you could have taken that same game and told it over a much bigger world. So I appreciated that they, kept it confined. It was a fun little, 2D side scrolling Metroidvania like at times. The world building and the town building was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed like the characters, CJ, Guru, and who was the Asha? Is that right? Was that the third one?
I don't think so. I think it was.
No.
I'm trying to remember.
Blue hair girl.
Yeah.
You meet her very early on, and her name is already escaping me. The rapacious one, the mayor one.
The rapacious, yeah.
And I loved just kind of where their story goes. Not diving into spoilers or anything like that, but I thought it was a very fun, well-told little kind of RPG-esque story. So I had a good time kind of continuing and finishing it. I'll be curious to see, just given the year that we're in, like it's possible this could end up making my top 10. I think it's in there right now just out of like necessity because of the lacking amount of games we've gotten to play this year. But I definitely had a great time with it. It was I would give it a solid kind of like that, this is a good to great game. I had a very fun time with it for the time I had. It didn't outstay its welcome. Shout out to that. It more than anything has gotten me excited for the 100 Heroes, like the proper game that we're going to get. I don't imagine it will be similar in like gameplay and stuff like that, but at least like the world that they've built and the characters that they've started to establish, I'll be very curious and very excited to see where it goes from there. So yeah, that's just kind of my updated thoughts on that. Don't need to spend too much time on it since we did a whole segment for it last week. So I will kick it over to you, Cameron. Tell me about Vampire Survivor.
Yeah, Vampire Survivor is an awesome game. It is currently available. I should note that so originally I thought that it was just a demo on Game Pass, Turns out that's not what game preview means. Game preview on Game Pass means it's in early access.
Yeah.
So I did not know that. So there's a lot of games I need to go back on and like check out because I was wrong about like, I don't want to like hop into this just to have the demo of it. Now I need to go back and play those. But particularly with Vampire Survivor, I was really impressed by it. It's like a $3 game on Steam. It is essentially a game where the point is to avoid monsters that are coming at you, and while you're maneuvering around the area, your abilities are going on, and so there are several different abilities. It is extremely it is very Castlevania in the way that it does it, where it's like each of the chosen heroes or characters that you can choose from are all from like the same familial lineage. The items are like a cross that's like a boomerang, a like axes that are thrown up in the air or are thrown up on screen, so they actually like go north and then fall south. It's super chill, super cool, very arcadey, just extremely arcadey, and just the replayability because of that is insane. It's just a super straightforward game. You're trying to get as much gold as possible to unlock unlock new heroes, new characters. You want to survive as long as possible and make your way through the different levels. I'm currently on like level 3 right now, and I've unlocked like the old man with the garlic as his base ability, because garlic basically creates a force field around you, or not a force field, but like an area effect around you, where you do automatic damage that like clears out early enemies super quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And repulses stronger enemies even if you don't kill them right away. It's super great. I'm having a ton of fun with it. Like it's just a great thing. It's like I only have like 20 minutes and I just want to do something real quick. Okay, I'll hop in Vampire Survivor. But it's bit of a warning. It's also one of those games that it's really easy to be like, I could fit one more game in, and then all of a sudden you realize it's 2 a.m. and you've been playing for 6 hours. So it's definitely one of those games. It's a lot of fun. It's very addictive. But man, I've just had an absolute blast.
I'm looking at some screenshots, and so this looks like a top-down 2D Musou like. Is that kind of the vibe I'm getting from this? I'm seeing basically like your character in the center of a screen, swarms of enemies kind of like moving in at you. You use your giant area of effect attack, and they all have just numbers of like the damage you're doing to them, and you're blowing them out, away from you, kind of stuff.
That's one ability. There's other abilities. There's like one person who's like the mage, and so they have like a magic missile that launches at nearby enemies. There's somebody who uses a whip as their initial ability. The great thing about it, though, is despite your initial ability, you can pick up every other ability just by upgrading. So eventually, some of them drop soul crystals that are these little blue crystals that you pick up, and that's your experience, and that's how you get more. That's how you level up. And as you level up, you get new abilities every level. And you can choose to get new abilities, upgrade abilities, etc. And it's just a lot of fun. Like I said, it's just super addictive gameplay. It is like real easy to just kind of like pay half attention to. Granted, that can also like get you killed. Like it's great. It's a lot of fun. I can't speak highly enough about it just because it's such a inexpensive. Like the value you get out of something that inexpensive is crazy. Like it is crazy how inexpensive it is.
Yeah, it's funny because as you say that, I immediately think back to our conversation about Florence, where you were like Florence for $3 is too much for that game. Like that is more money than that game is worth in your mind.
It was no, because Florence was like $15 or something, wasn't it?
No, it was not. It was like a $3 iOS or Android game. Like it might have cost more when it started going to like console ports and stuff, but no, the original was like, I remember specifically having this conversation with you at a Portillo's where you were like, I don't want to dive into Florence, like that just doesn't seem like my kind of game, and it seems like a waste of money. And I was like, it's $3, $2.99. So I'm just amused by that little kind of facet of this.
Well, let me reiterate: Florence isn't worth $3.
This is worth more than $3. Got it.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't really
I
care. I played Florence. I thought Florence was fine. I did not have a problem spending $3 on Florence. Um,
I
is
caused a lot of consternation in our friend chat when I said that.
it was whatever. Um, so is there like an end game to this, or is it just about surviving long enough to like? Is there a like you won kind of like thing in a stage, or is it like just endless hordes of enemies coming and you just last as long as you can?
Endless horde of enemies, last as long as you can. But eventually, instead of it just being like, oh, there's just one area, you start off in the forest, then you go to like a library, then you go to like a production facility or like a factory setting, and that's as far as I am in. Each of those areas has different creatures in it, so you're not fighting just the same sprites over and over and over again in every level. Each level is themed different. It's very, very cool. But also, like, some enemies are super strong, and so you have to just avoid them and just keep pelting with them with your abilities until eventually they die. And some of them will drop like treasure chests that give you a good chunk of gold, because also gold does not fall from enemies. It has to come from either a treasure chest or from a fire based or a light source based item on the field that you destroy, and they'll either drop gold or it'll drop like a turkey, and the turkey heals you.
Gotcha. So
Turkeys are harder to find than gold.
kind of a gauntlet-esque game for
Yeah,
a modern age kind of thing.
I would definitely say so. If you were
But
to say
also
it's
with like a lot of throwback elements, like
yeah,
at least clearly in design, it's clearly going for like a low pixel art kind of art
like
style.
like the game itself, from like its title screen all the way through, it's very like NES,
Yeah,
Sega, not Sega Genesis, but like Sega Master System, like very much that like old school bit rate, not bit rate, sorry, old school bit style, uh, kind of like graphic texture. Like even the images for the main menu are very much that same old school way as well. I would say actually this is good way to put it. I would say this is like a Gauntlet Muso game.
yeah, okay, cool.
So yeah, it's very cool.
Seems like a fun little way to kill some time. And you're playing that
PC
on PC. Okay,
on Game Pass specifically
yeah.
because I'm a cheap bastard.
That's fair. That's that's what I'm playing my next game on Floppy Knights. Is the other one that I've been playing this week. You can find a let's play of it out on our channel right now. Both of my games, basically, you can find me playing like 30 minutes to an hour of from last week. And yeah, this is actually one I was keeping my eye on anyway. And when it happened to be like, oh yeah, we're coming to Game Pass, I was like, cool, I don't have to spend extra money on it. Excellent. Floppy Knights is a game I first played back at PAX East 2020.
Was it your game of the show at 2020?
It was not.
PAX?
It's probably one of the ones I've talked about the most, but no, Artful
Yeah,
Escape was my game of the show then.
that's right. That's right.
Floppy Knights was one that like I've checked in on a couple times. Like they did like a demo as part of like a Steam event or games Game Awards event or something like that. So I've kind of been keeping an eye on it and like checking in and seeing how the game has continued to evolve from that first demo. And now it's out in like its 1.0 form on Xbox or Game Pass, also on Steam and other stuff. For those that don't know, the premise of the game is it's effectively a deck builder mashed up with a like a tactical turn-based RPG, Fire Emblem-esque kind of game. You're out there. Your character Phoebe has an AI arm that she has created called Carlton, and Carlton can basically like throw out holograms on the field, or like your floppy knights, your floppy disk knights, out on the field. And like you start out working with like plant-based knights, so you'll have like a big barrel cactus kind of thing is going to be your tank type enemy, or you've got like a poison spitting plant will be kind of a little bit ranged. and basically and as you go throughout the game, you can collect more cards. You can like add cards to your decks and build your deck kind of in between encounters. And then you eventually start kind of unlocking other decks. So I just, for example, unlocked like the monsters deck. So instead of just sticking with plant-based items and like ability types, because some are going to be, this ability, gives your character a +1 to attack for the rest of this battle or something like that. Or this card will heal your character up by 3 HP or something like that. And each little map gives you a kind of a primary objective, a little bonus objective. You can usually win either by taking out all the enemies on the map, or by completing some other alternate objective, like, hey, go to this spot and hold it for 2 turns, or destroy this item or this element on the map or something like that. And yeah, it's fun. There's like a lot of cool, fun strategy behind it, behind figuring out how you're going to kind of build things out. In Well, admittedly, I have not played a ton of deck builder games or anything like that, but it's you each turn of combat, you're basically you have like your captain character who, if your captain dies, it's game over. So you can use them as kind of your main attacker, or you might want to have them hang back, or kind of mix and match gameplay styles. But like if they go down, everybody it's game over. You have to restart the mission. But then you can also get like every turn, I think you get five or six cards basically pulled from your deck. And you have like a few energy points that you can use, and each card has 0 to X number of energy that it's going to cost, and you can basically play those out. The cards are some of the cards are going to be simple things like move, that lets you move one of your units, because that's not going to be a base thing they can do. Your units can't just move every turn. They need a card to move. They can't attack every turn, and then you can also get like additional attacks by playing other cards or something like that. Any unused cards at the end of a turn go into a discard pile, and then as you basically like burn through and you get to like, oh, everything's in the discard pile, it shuffles and you start kind of pulling from the deck again. And so yeah, it's a mix of like dispatching attacker types, upgrading them, or using your move or attack cards to move your attackers around the battlefield to take out enemies. Every unit has like an attack stat, a speed stat, a range stat, and a health stat.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like it's juggling all those normal things. You can get like stat boosts. If you're like in a forest square on the map, you'll get like +1 to defense, so enemies have to break through your shield first before they'll start taking away your HP. Your captains, you can swap out captains over the course of the campaign, but you only basically have like one at a time. And like
Mhm.
the second captain I got had this ability that basically like every turn she heals your like all of your allies 1
Mhm.
HP. So like if anybody took
Okay.
some damage in the prior round, you can kind of like count on that HP coming back into play. And so yeah, it's just a fun little approach to a tactical RPG, tactical strategy kind of game. I'm having a good time with it. There's a fun little kind of like story, going along alongside this. Phoebe is trying to like showcase this new thing that she's created as like basically a science fair, so she can win the science fair and the prize money associated with that science fair. She has like her own arch nemesis who has her own version of the AI robot arm. Phoebe's is called Carlton. The evil lady's is called Snarlton, and is constantly making snarky jokes at you. Um, you can like, as you basically like, each area has like 4 stages to it, in the lead up to like the fourth stage is going to be your like boss fight of that area. And as you unlock each of those areas, you also unlock, additional challenge maps. So you can kind of go and do like bonus challenges and stuff like that. Outside of the combat, you can manage your deck by adding either new cards that you won in the combat or by crafting new cards, like using the money that you win from combat to craft new cards and kind of mix and match, add to your deck, pull away from your deck. And then you can and kind of juggle, each deck. So now that I've unlocked a monster deck, I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, I've gotten really accustomed to using my plant deck, and like I like the build of my plant deck, but maybe take out some of those cards and slide in some monster cards into it and start doing like it's like that Magic the Gathering of like, find a blue black deck that, works really well for you or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. It's that kind of mentality that is the stage I'm at right now. So yeah, a fun little quirky art style too. It's all like 2D animation, not sprites or anything, but like just little cartoony kind of almost a lot of it looks like almost like cardboard cutouty or like construction paper kind of like character designs and stuff. Cleaner than South Park, but that kind of like almost paper like feel to the character designs.
Okay,
Um,
gotcha. Okay.
and so yeah, it's just a fun little quirky game that I've been keeping an eye on for a couple years, and I'm having a good time with it now that it's out there and available. It's on Game Pass. I originally played it, in Steam demo form and stuff like that. So it's been fun. I mentioned in the Let's Play, like when I originally played it, I think like there were like your characters had different base abilities or stuff like that. And then like when I played the demo of it, some things had changed, and now playing like the final version, like I don't think characters had like a base you automatically get one attack each round kind of thing. I think like originally it was you pulled more cards, but there was probably a bigger mix of like attack cards in the mix. And so it's been interesting to kind of see how they've tweaked the mechanics and the kind of just different elements of the gameplay in the time since playing that original demo. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Floppy Knight. Some of the maps will be like there will be like different spaces on a map that will be kind of counting down, and it'll basically like a map will start and there will be 7 enemies on the map, but there might be like respawn points that
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
new
Yeah.
enemies can like bounce out or like come out at you on. And you can do one of two things to deal with those that I've been enjoying doing. One, when a new enemy respawns or spawns on one of those points, that's it. That's their movement for the turn. They can't like take an attack or anything, and they can't move off that spawn point. So I've had like my guys sometimes posted up like in position where they're gonna get like a healthy ranged attack and just take the new spawn out in
Nice.
like like they appear and then they're immediately killed by my guys. Or you can place your own ally on the spawn point, and it basically like stops them from being able to spawn. It's not like
Yeah.
they're not going to like spawn in a spot around you. And there's also like in some of the bigger maps, there's like a checkpointing system. So at the beginning of a round, you spawn, in the 4 to 8 squares or whatever that are kind of like your initial kind of starting location. And then like midway through the map, there's a little computer that if you can kind of like walk through the computer space, you'll secure that spawn point, and then you can start like dropping your units there rather than having to like drop them in the base spawn point and have them move all the way up the map. So you can kind of use that for some strategic opportunities as well. And that's like one of my funnest little combos was I walked a person through a spawn point, used their attack to deal damage to a guy who had like 12 hit points or something like that, took him down to 8, and then spawned 2 more of my allies in that spot in range to attack this guy, and just took him out all in one go. And you get fun little opportunities like that based on just kind of sometimes the luck of the draw, other times just like knowing, okay, that those are the cards I have at play right now. Here's the cool thing I'm going to do with them. So yeah, shout out to Floppy Knights out there on Xbox Game Pass. Any questions? Any thoughts?
No, it sounds like pretty straightforward. Sounds like a pretty interesting game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if necessarily it's for me. I'm definitely not in the mood for like a tactical type RPG right now, but it sounds like it's a good time.
Yeah, that's fair.
It sounds, and from what I've seen, it's very, very charming.
Yes,
So
it's got a lot of fun, like quirky humor to it. I will say, I really enjoy like the little gags and stuff. Cool. So we will throw it back over to you, Cam, to wrap us up. You've been playing My Time at Sandrock. Tell me about that.
yeah, so I have often been enticed to pick up My Time at Portia, which is the prequel to My Time at Sandrock. Um, I've never I've never pulled the trigger on it, but I've always been interested in it. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a massive fan of, something Trevor, you and I have in common is that we're massive fans of the Harvest Moon franchise.
Yep.
Um, ended up, I've ended up falling deeply, deeply in love with Stardew Valley. And like, we'll still pick it up and play it to this day, even though it's been years since it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like
my sister and brother-in-law have been getting super into Stardew Valley recently, and they're playing like the multiplayer stuff. They'll just hang out and play it together, in side-by-side computers and stuff. I'm like, good for you guys. I know I put way too much time into Stardew Valley, and I know if I picked it back up, I would just get sucked back in and lose any kind of productivity. So I try and keep myself at arm's length on it.
100%. 100%. Especially once you get into the PC version and you get into like all the different cool mods and stuff. There's like an expanded version now where there's like more characters, different kinds of farms that you can do that are just like even more than what's in the base game, and it's a lot of fun, and it's dangerous because I can get sucked back into that game. I've definitely, without a doubt, put well over a couple hundred hours into Stardew Valley over the different platforms that I've played it on. Gosh, I've spent a lot of time. So yeah, so like I was just kind of like, I do the thing that I do, which is, every couple of days, sometimes every, like, at least I try to at least once a week go through the My That Nerdy site email and just kind of like scan through, see if there's anything interesting. I mean, we get blasted with no less than a metric ton of announcements, review opportunities, preview opportunities, just every possible thing. The game space right now is just like, if you have been to a PAX or you've been to any sort of gaming event and your name has ever been on anybody's PR list, you get blasted with these emails constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try once a week to like just but just skim through them and just kind of find if there's anything interesting. And I came across My Time at Sandrock, and I thought to myself, that looks interesting because it looks like it's from the people who made My Time at Portia. And I checked it out, saw some of the preview stuff for it, saw that it's been in early access for a while, kind of like went over a few things for it, and just made the decision, hey, I think I'm just going to go ahead and request a review, or request a key for it. Got the key for it, so went ahead and booted it up, and man, I've had a lot of fun with it. It is very much a different kind of game in that it is one part, like, it's not set up in the way that you'd expect. Like, you're not, like, you don't come on grandpa's farm. Like, you don't inherit a farm. You are a builder assigned to Sandrock as part of so basically the world entered this thing called the Age of Corruption and like fell apart. And you are part of a like agency that goes around, sends builders out to basically rebuild settlements and like hopefully restart and reignite civilization. It has a cool kind of like post-apocalyptic kind of not tone to it. This is not a story about like survivors. This is a story about people who are just living their lives, and it just so happens that, hey, the world ended before, and we're just like, we're still like dealing with the fallout of that in a lot of ways. Sandrock is a desert community, which means water is a scarce resource. which is interesting. That plays a small, like there's a small bit of economy because you need water to run your tools and stuff. Not your tools, sorry, to run your equipment that you build. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It is doing a lot to, as far as like quests go, in the game. Quests are built around kind of the idea of like building out this town, and in ways, and it basically gives you quests to start really building out your workshop. One of the cool things that they do is they, like, as soon as you get a workshop, basically you're going to Sandrock because you and another builder named uh, Mina, who is like just another builder from a different, like a different part of the world than you, and you guys are showing up to basically replace this other builder that was there, named Carson, who's retiring. And so he basically is like, yeah, I have this workshop, like one of you guys can take, and you end up getting the workshop. And one of the first things you do is you name your workshop. And I was like, man, I want to come up with like a cool name, because everywhere else in this town has like the blacksmith, like the smithy is called the Hammer, or no, it's called Hammer Time. Sorry, it's called Hammer Time. The saloon is called the Blue Moon. It like, it's a lot of like really fun naming conventions, and so I was like, I want to name something like important, but also like kind of cool and badass. I was like, so I named mine Soul Forge, but instead of it being SUL for like the soul, I put it SOL for sun. And so
Nice.
it's Soul Forge, and I'm like, I like that. It's cool. I'm in the desert. It's giving me those like cool desert vibes. There's like this entire, so the settlement is built on top of the ruins of a shopping, like a massive megaplex shopping mall. And so one of the things you get access to eventually is to basically excavate out and get like materials out of this mine. And that's tied into other things going on. There's a member of the settlement who apparently blew up a building before you got there, and his name's Logan, and he's an outlaw. And I'm like, that's fun. Okay. And but I mean, he looks cool because you see like a brief look at him when you're coming into town on the train. You like it should, like they pan over and they show like this outlaw looking dude who looks awesome, and you're like, that's cool. Downside, the only negative thing I have to say about this game so far is uh it's hard to find pants. You're always wearing shorts.
Okay.
And like that's fine. Like, but like it's hard for me to take my character serious. So I tried to like recreate myself as best as possible.
Hmm.
But like many like so you can choose your gender and you can choose kind of how you look. Um but of course, like I'm as you per usual, uh you know, putting together a person that looks like me is not what people consider optimal for gaming characters. And so I ended up creating a guy that looks like the dude from Twin Peaks.
Okay.
Because I tried to like recreate my facial features, but on my like in the recreation of those facial features, because it's not a I can't do like a fill-in for the like for heavy set people. So instead it just has like just this kind of like big face. And I look like the dude from Twin Peaks. But with like cool, almost anime like hair. It's rad. It's a fun game. It plays a little bit differently in that you don't have like a wide set of tools that you use. You have basically a pickaxe, hammer, and an axe. Like that's what you have, and that's what you use constantly. The stamina is a bit like, I think the stamina cost for what you try to do is a bit high. Um, Especially when you're trying to clear stuff out, like some big heavy stuff that has a lot of health that you're trying to take out with your pickaxe is like takes a lot of your stamina. Like a big mass pile takes probably like close to half your stamina to clear. So I don't like the stamina costs or actions as much. Their combat's pretty simple. It's just swing your weapon. I wasn't too like impressed by like the depth of the combat, so I just went with the greatsword. Because you can just like use right click to just dodge out of the way of stuff. Um, and that has like a set, and this is the weird thing, that has a separate stamina bar than your stamina. The separate stamina bar for things like your rolling, with your right click, it's a rechargeable one with like 10 little bars on it, and rolling takes up like 2 bars. Uh, but the weird thing about it though is like that's separate, and then your other stamina doesn't recharge. and that's your stamina that you use to do any actions to like, use tools or climb through like or like, go through things, go through piles of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, it's a little bit frustrating on that level. Because I just feel like that goes too fast. I think the time, like time wise, it goes a bit fast too in a day, but like that's also beneficial because like there's not as much to do as like say like a Stardew Valley. So like it has its benefits, but yeah, I've really been enjoying my time with it. I think it's pretty cool. I'm really enjoying it, and I like special shout out of course to the developers and the PR people who were just like willing to send over a code, like no real restrictions on anything. But yeah, it's been cool.
Cool. And you're playing this one where?
On Steam.
On Steam. Yeah, it's I remember when My Life at Porsche came out and people were talking about it, and like I looked into it a little bit. I think I had probably just put a bunch of time into like Friends of Mineral Town or something like that, or
Hmm.
so I wasn't like I didn't need like the the farm sim itch scratched. But when I looked into it, and when I'm looking here at my time at Sandrock, the thing that is the biggest element that probably like drives me away from these games is that I never really got too deep into or too interested in when Harvest Moon started going like 3D. Like I remember like the GameCube one, like playing
A
that
Wonderful
one.
Life. Yeah.
Yeah, Wonderful Life, and it being like, okay, you're running around in a 3D world now, and I was like, oh, I don't like this. I like the old like isometric or top down style that you get with like a Stardew. Um,
Hmm.
and seeing that, so it's like it just aesthetically and mechanically doesn't have like my vibe for those kinds of games, but it does. I mean, it does seem like it scratches all the other itches of those kinds of games. Um,
I will say
uh,
the cast of characters is quite charming.
mhm,
Like I've already befriend like just because like you do quests for these people, and I happened to do a couple of quests for the bar owner, the saloon owner, and he's like, cool, hey, let's and so like the events you do are a bit more interesting, like because you do some stuff for the saloon owner, and he says, cool, hey, like come on over to my saloon real quick, and like let's sit down and have a meal and drinks, and you sit down and you have like a conversation with them, and it's not just like a oh yeah, like it's not a talking head moment that you get in like a lot of the farm sim games where it's like, how's life on the farm?
mhm.
Oh, that's interesting. Like you actually ask questions, and you have a like there is a bit of the way that you can answer things. You can answer things in like a hey, I'm super positive, or you can be kind of sardonic and
Mhm.
kind of like a like this is hard. I don't like this.
As
Kind of like
yeah,
be a little bit of an ass.
as you're saying this, I've got like this Steam page pulled up, and an image came up of like you can compliment this person's appearance, you can compliment their work, you can compliment their personality. It's basically like what like it's showing off the like conversation mechanics sitting with somebody on a bench. Um,
There's also some voice acting in it, which is nice.
cool.
So, and the voice acting is pretty good. So,
Um,
yeah.
has there is there I saw in one of the videos that was playing um like I would the closest thing I would liken them to is like the holidays in a Stardew or a Harvest Moon. Have you had any of those? Are those an element of the game? Have you experienced through any of them?
Not yet. The big one that I was supposed to do ended up getting postponed because of and it was a scripted event. Got postponed because of like a sandstorm,
Hmm.
and then introduced the kind of sandstorm mechanic for that's kind of like it's unique. Like hey, take an easy day today. And instead of it being like, hey, dude, you don't have to worry about watering your crops because the rains come in, it's like, hey, you probably don't want to run your machines right now because if you run them for too long while the sandstorm's going on, sand will get inside of them, and then you're gonna have to like buy this item to clear out the sand inside of them. So probably don't do that.
Hmm.
And it's like I'm like that's a weird like way of like disincentivizing people from like doing the work.
Well, it's like
Um,
it's like when you get like a hurricane in a Harvest Moon or something. It's like, well, this is just a day where you can't even leave your room. Like
yep.
you're stuck, and yeah, your plants might be watered outside, but they also might be gone. So it's interesting that that's like introduced as like a scripted thing because what I would always do in like your Harvest Moons or your Stardews is I reloaded a save and hoped I got like a different day's forecast for the next day
Mhm.
to try and avoid those wherever I could.
Well, yeah,
Um,
the thing about those days is so because it's like, hey, I can't really run my machines. I ran over to Mina, who is the like the other builder.
mhm.
She's just like everybody's just hanging inside their house, and so I went to her house and like we played. There's like a fun little like rock paper scissors lizard Spock kind of like card game where like you basically like try to predict what the other person's about to play and you try to counter it and like oh it's fun. And I played a couple of games with her and now we have like I leveled up her heart. Also turns out there's marriage in this game.
Hmm.
And it's like from what I could what I could gather, it looks like it is not like stuck to
It's
like
not gender
gender.
specific.
It's not gender specific from what I can see, which is cool.
Yeah.
I dig it. But here's the thing: there's a lot of hot guys and gals, and it's like, man, there's a lot to choose from. I got to get to know these people a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you done any of this sand fishing that I'm seeing?
Yes, I was introduced to sand fishing, and it is different. It is fun because like you're basically it's a like a shooting gallery,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like you're fishing, but you're fishing by shooting a claw and grabbing fish. It's
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, it definitely looks. I mean, just the idea of like it being in a desert, like landscape, desert, like that being the environment, instinctively is going to lead to like, oh, I haven't seen that in. I guess Stardew has like a desert area, but it's not like outside of any mods or stuff that have come since I played it. Like you couldn't be farming out in the desert area and stuff like
No,
that. It was just
you
kind of like
can't.
you can grab
Yeah.
some resources there, or you can go talk to people there. So yeah, it seems like this is kind of like an interesting approach and something that sets itself apart. Um,
Yeah.
Very cool. Any final thoughts there on my time at Sandrock?
Yeah, you know, I'm still really early in the game. I have not put that much time into it, but I'm looking forward to putting more time into it later on. It's interesting. I've had like I didn't know I had these these itches that I need to scratch. And between last week with Eiyuden Chronicles Rising and then this week with my time at Sandrock, it's been, you know, a real good time for me to kind of like have these brief moments of respite to kind of do that. Unfortunately, they have to come to an end because I start my new job next Monday, and that means we're beating Dying Light 2 this week if we can.
Cool, good
So
strategy. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna hop into this, but like you mentioning it and me looking at this and me realizing that my Steam Deck is scheduled to arrive this week, I'm like,
yeah, man.
uh oh, and
Oh, it's a whole
yeah.
new world for Steam games when it comes for you,
Yeah.
Trevor.
Yeah, it's because it will be like, oh, I can I can play these Steam. Like I never play my Switch, before I go to bed anymore. But I might pull out my Steam Deck and play some things. Like I'm routinely kind of like checking the like, what are the games that are like marked compatible in my library with Steam Deck. So yeah, we'll see.
It's a good time to be Trevor.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that one. Glad you're having a good time with it. I think that is gonna do it for this week's episode. A little bit of a short one, at least comparatively to our other normal episodes. Thank you for joining me, Cam, to chat all of these fun little games. So yeah, let's go around the metaphorical table with any plugs we have. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, check out that D Plus show. We just did Obi-Wan Kenobi. I put out on Twitter how much of like a reigniting I had about like Star Wars as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
because of our time with it. Go check out that podcast. I go into detail as to why there. And like, it is just a roaring good time to talk about that show. So go check that out, that D Plus show. It's on podcast feeds as well as youtube.com/thatnerdysite. So go check that out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was gonna be my shout out as well. So I echo that wholeheartedly. Last couple weeks we've done that D Plus show as Sunday releases because the things we were talking about came out on Fridays, which is normally when we would release the show. So we bumped the show a couple days. We'll be back to our regular schedule this week. Still got to figure out what we're going to talk about for this week's show. But then next week we've got Miss Marvel lined up, and at the end of the month we'll basically do all of Obi-Wan Kenobi will be out by then, so we will do kind of our full series or season wrap up of that. So yeah, check that out, and as well as all of our other That D Plus show content out there. This one was episode 126, which means we've easily been doing this for over 2 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've had a good chunk of Disney Plus things, and we like every now and then we'd like talk as a team about like, oh, maybe we'll like expand it beyond just Disney Plus, and we'll dive into other streaming things. And it's like we don't even really need to do that because Disney Plus just keeps
Yeah.
coming out with things, and there's still plenty of things obviously that we haven't covered. So yeah, go check out That D Plus show. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. As always, thank you for listening. Stay nerdy and be good to each other.